President Trump gave President Maduro of Venezuela an ultimatum to step down immediately. President Maduro tried to delay by suggesting negotiations, but the United States rejected them. The United States considers this as effectively rejecting the ultimatum and is acting accordingly. Today, let's take a closer look at this issue. Let's get right into it. President Trump gave his ultimatum last week with a November 28th deadline. President Trump demanded President Maduro resign and go into exile, reportedly offering safety for Maduro and his family if he left Venezuela. President Maduro attempted to negotiate with President Trump by making 3 demands, likely trying to buy time by changing the schedule. He sought full international pardon for himself and his associates over corruption, human rights abuses, and illegal crackdowns. He also reportedly wanted to keep military command for some time after leaving power. Above all, President Maduro stated that if he suddenly resigned, it would cause chaos in Venezuela, so he would step down gradually over about 3 years. Since President Trump would leave office in 3 years, this was a calculated move. The United States concluded Venezuela rejected the final ultimatum and ended further negotiations. Next, President Trump decided to shut down the border. Afterward, Russia appeared to get information and quickly evacuated its citizens from Venezuela. Because of this, Venezuela hurriedly tried to call President Trump again to negotiate, but the United States responded by ignoring them. The United States then acted as planned. President Trump held an emergency meeting with the security team on December 1 to discuss possible military action against Venezuela. Secretary of State McCorvey, Secretary of War Pete Axios, and Joint Chiefs Chairman Den Kane attended, gathering all key United States security figures for the meeting. According to a report by Columbia Broadcasting System in the United States, the nature of this meeting was analyzed as an opportunity for the Trump administration to decide on the next steps while increasing pressure on the Maduro regime. Details aren't out yet. This follows Trump administration comments about closing Venezuela's airspace. Right now, no airplanes are flying over Venezuelan airspace. Countries worldwide are canceling flights to Venezuela, and Spain has also banned flights over Venezuelan airspace. Since last September, the United States has repeatedly attacked Venezuelan vessels suspected of drug trafficking, killing at least 80 people. They identified President Maduro as leader of a drug terrorist group. They increased their military threat by sending the Gerald Ford Carrier Strike Group, the largest nuclear-powered aircraft carrier near Venezuela. Currently, United States troop deployment to the Caribbean is at its highest in 30 years. It appears that what the United States is aiming for right now is the collapse of the Maduro regime. Deploying aircraft carriers and dozens of fighter jets to catch drug cartels is unnecessary. However, the troop count is low. Only 15,000 have assembled, which isn't much. In the 1989 Panama invasion, the United States sent 27,000 troops and quickly overthrew the Panamanian regime. The problem is that Venezuela is much larger than Panama, and although the Venezuelan military is weak, it still has more troops than Panama did. That's why many think 15,000 troops aren't enough for a full attack. However, we need to consider the location. Venezuela is right in front of the United States. Plenty of reserve forces can be deployed from the United States mainland, along with delayed Navy and Air Force units, so troop numbers can be decided any time. On top of that, it is expected that the United States is currently targeting a leadership capture operation, which is similar to a decapitation operation. If they carry out a military operation to eliminate the leadership, air power alone is enough. They can just launch pinpoint missile strikes at the locations where the leadership is. In this case, there's no need to conduct an amphibious operation. What's worrying is that if the Maduro regime collapses, Venezuela could become very chaotic. Honestly, for the last 3 months, there have been discussions about invading Venezuela. But there is also an analysis that the reason they still haven't invaded is because they are considering what might happen afterward. After the Venezuelan regime falls, events will be more complex than any analysis. The collapse of the central government will first disrupt national security. Venezuela remains dominated by cartels, militias, and unofficial armed groups within the military. Once the regime falls, these groups will likely seize control of their territories. During that process, armed conflict could spread across the country, making cities uncontrollable and causing a mass exodus. Millions have already fled economic collapse, and experts predict a regime collapse would create even more refugees. These refugees will flock to the borders of Colombia and Brazil, and the social, economic, and security burdens on neighboring countries will increase explosively. The issue also occurs when forming a new government. Even if the United States forms a pro-American transitional government, complex internal interests make unification difficult. Some military members may enter politics for survival, while cartels could undermine the transitional government to protect their interests. Additionally, outside parties may intervene. Russia might try to regain influence due to lucrative energy and arms deals with Ilkir, while China may act to protect its large bond and infrastructure investments. A power struggle may emerge in South America involving the United States, Russia, and China. For the United States, invading Venezuela isn't just a simple military move. After toppling the regime, it's difficult to predict the chaos or its duration, making their decision difficult. What is the strength of the Venezuelan military against the United States? Venezuela lacks the capability to face a United States military operation directly. Many of the Venezuelan military's weapons are old Russian models that are decades old. They are also severely outdated. On top of that, their salaries are low. An ordinary Venezuelan soldier earns about $147,000 monthly, just 1/5 of the basic living cost. They lack real combat experience and have poor training. Their main experience has been dealing with unarmed civilians at protests. Therefore, if war starts, soldiers are likely to disperse and fight brief guerrilla battles in different areas. The Venezuelan military has made the same plan, so why does the United States want to attack Venezuela? The Trump administration's current justification is to block drug influx from Venezuela. However, the problem is that the amount of drugs originating from Venezuela and entering the United States mainland is relatively small. In fact, Mexico is responsible for much more, so it's highly likely that this is a humanitarian narrative restructured for the purposes of United States foreign policy. Many believe the attacks were motivated by oil and removing anti-American groups among refugees. First of all, right now in Venezuela, it holds about 17% of the world's oil reserves, plus major gold, steel, bauxite, and diamond reserves. Even with just the confirmed reserves, it's a country that has more crude oil than Saudi Arabia. So if you control Venezuela, you can secure an overwhelming amount of oil. In 2024, Venezuela also claimed about 2/3 of Guyana's territory. It was once Venezuelan land, but now belongs to Guyana. Still, Venezuela now claims it. The bigger issue is that a large oil reserve was found in the area of Guyana that Venezuela claims. American oil companies extract the oil because Guyana granted mining rights to American refineries. This created a need to teach Venezuela a lesson, and the United States' views on Venezuela have significant geopolitical factors. Venezuela is the main axis leading the anti-American movement in South America. If this country collapses, leftist governments like Cuba will also lose power one after another. For decades, the United States sought to keep South America in its sphere of influence, but Venezuela resisted this trend. That's why a regime change in Venezuela is not just a simple change of government, but could become a symbolic event that solves a long-standing challenge in United States diplomatic strategy. We'll have to wait and see if they attack. Talk of invasion began 3 months ago. However, attacking ships suspected of carrying drugs is controversial in the United States. The Democratic Party is targeting ships suspected of carrying drugs, resulting in about 80 deaths, but there's debate over whether these ships actually contain drugs. And questions about the legality of this are also continuously being raised. The United States isn't officially at war with Venezuela, but still launched attacks. After confirming 2 crew members survived the first strike, they attacked again and killed them. This has led to demands for explanations and pressure. The United States Navy and Trump administration said they acted appropriately within their authority. It's rare for the United States to repeatedly attack a ship from one country like this. If Venezuela is invaded, the world could be turned upside down again. The current situation feels odd because it's like things were just before the war in Ukraine began. What are your thoughts on the United States invading Venezuela? Share in the comments. That's it for the video. Thanks.